The Board of Education will come to order. Is there a motion to enter into executive session?
I move to enter into executive session, discuss personnel, collective bargaining, or legal, property acquisition issues, and student issues, Maryland Local Government Code Article Section 9-512A, 1, 2, 6, and 10.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Everyone in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. The Board of Education will now enter into executive session. The Board of Education will reconvene at this time. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome. Good morning. Apologize for starting a little bit later in the general meeting, but executive session just ran over a little bit this morning, so we apologize for that. Please turn off your cell phones if you haven't done so already. And I'd like to make some introductions this morning. I see we have Anna Laughlin with us, President of the Education Association of St. Mary's County. Anna, how are you this morning? Who else is there? Who did I miss? Who? No, Billy?
Yep.
Oh, stand up, sir.
thank you, sir.
We haven't had the opportunity to meet you. Dan Messick, MSEA, is that correct? UNICEF Director representing CSMIC? And SMAZA. Okay, welcome, sir. Okay. Okay, moving along. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move approval of the agenda as presented with the resumption of executive session, the previous executive session immediately following this meeting.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Everyone in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Okay, thank you. Board reports. Mr. Matthews.
Good morning. How's everybody today? Good. I kind of got in trouble in my house the other day. I was running through, and I don't know how I ended up with a squirt gun, but I ended up squirting my daughter. And she looked up at me and she goes, "Dad, you're on yellow." Squirt you again then, you know. So finally, we've got some recognitions coming up that this means a lot to. But so that happens in my house. My daughter calls me on yellow, I'm on orange, and by the time that squirt gun was empty, I was full-blown in trouble. But every night when we have dinner, that's one of the things that we discuss. How was your day in school? And, "Oh, Dad, I was good. I got on blue today." Psst, rock on. That's the answer Dad likes to hear. So that's just how we start our day. I ended up in trouble, and we ended up on blue before it was said and done. Thank you very much. Do you want this one?
All right.
Just want this
All
one?
right, thank you. Mrs. Washington?
Good morning, everyone. I attended a farewell reception for Dr. Martirano, which was held at the Flores Center yesterday. It was open to the general public, and it was an opportunity for the citizens and staff members to congratulate him on his new position as the State Superintendent of West Virginia and to wish him the best. The superintendent, this is his 208th Board of Education meeting. He has perfect attendance. He has not missed one board meeting.
Well, my
So we
principal's
get-
shaking their head on that one.
And that's commendable. It was a wonderful event. It was from, I think, 4 to 8 p.m., and it
Steady
was a
flow.
steady flow of people there. So I was there, and the board members wishing him well, and it was a wonderful time. Thank you.
Mrs. Allen?
I guess I'll wax nostalgic.
Oh, please.
It was my honor to have the opportunity to call the superintendent, call Dr. Martirano on the evening that we determined he was our choice for superintendent. It was a great conversation, one I thoroughly enjoyed, and I think has led us on quite a path to excellence. And I appreciate all I've learned, all we have done as a school system, and it really has given St. Mary's a very positive reputation across the state of Maryland. Our achievements clearly documented in graduation rates, in test scores, in student satisfaction, parent satisfaction, is well known. And we are looked to as a role model for the programs that we've put in place. Dr. Martirano's vision has made that possible. I will be able and have been able to talk about these very many programs, and even as I'm getting ready to go to the MABE Fall Conference, we'll be presenting on our innovative approach to improving student achievement, and it was so interesting to members of the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners that they will be attending, a number of them will be attending because they want to hear this very presentation. And I think it's something that I've talked about often, and I know that if we can do it by reallocating funds in the way that we did, and by reaching the students that we have, it can be done anywhere. Where there's a will, there's a way. And it has always been about the students in this community. And so I thank you for that. All the best to you in your future endeavors, and I expect we'll continue to hear great things about what you're doing, but I also know that we will continue to hear about and talk about the wonderful things going on in this community, because we had a good school system to start with. We have a great school system now, and it is really about the people. And there's not a school that hasn't been touched by Dr. Martirano. The leadership is at the school level and at central office is just second to none. And I can say that with authority because I know a lot of the school leaders across this state. You may not always agree with what we do, but I certainly hope people understand why we do what we do. And so my hat is off not just to Dr. Martirano, but my hat is off to all of the staff that make this the school system it is. You make it a pleasure and very easy to go and talk about the wonderful things going on in this school system. So thank you to you all. That's it, sir.
Thank you. I also attended the open house last evening, and some of you came in and out. And, of course, very emotional times, and I don't want to get in on that topic. I told the superintendent I wouldn't do that. But it was nice, it was there. People were respectful, and it was a nice evening. I enjoyed being there with the rest of the board that was in attendance, and superintendent and his family. and other people of the community, and that was very nice. Yeah. And there'll be a lot more said about the superintendent
Sure.
as we move along today
course.
and this evening and the next couple of days, and that's all commendable. And we'll all thank him for everything he's done. And I see most of you in here know what I'm talking about, and you've enjoyed working with him, but we'll have more dialogue and conversation about that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Moderano, that brings us to you, Superintendent's report.
Okay. Well, thank you. Good morning, everybody. It is wonderful to see many people here in the audience who I know personally. I'm looking through the audience right now, and not too many people in here right now that I don't know. And that's an absolutely wonderful testament to the work that we've been able to do together for the last 10 years. And as I've stated very clearly, I appreciate the comments. You know, the superintendency and the principalship and teaching positions in the 21st century are tough jobs. They're tough and demanding jobs. Our educators every day in classrooms are working very diligently and very hard every day on behalf of children, on behalf of community. And the work ethic in this community has been second to none. I have worked in many school systems, as you know, some very challenging environments, you know, across the state, and recognize, have great admiration and respect for our teachers, for our paraeducators, for our staff, for our principals, because the work that occurs is tough work. It's tough work. I'm dictated by a quote, a lot of quotes. Anything that's worth having, it's never easy in terms of those kind of issues. So the work is hard, but the work is very rewarding. The work also is extremely rewarding. The work has been extremely rewarding because of the fact of all of us being together. You know, any task that you have, the more hands that you have, and we've talked about all hands on deck, our number of themes, all of those are true, and they've defined a clear vision. And so I walk away very proud of the work that has occurred on a 10-year period. If you take a look at every metric, any and every metric, qualitative and quantitative, those metrics have risen as a result of the hard work of our students, our parents, and our teachers. And we have a very clear vision, a very clear focused vision, and I've constantly sat back and basked in the reflective glory of all of the wonderful work that has occurred from our staff members, and constantly giving praise and glory and honor to our teachers, to our students, and to our staff. And so I walk away from this job that has been more than a job. It has been a way of life for 10 years. With a very, very positive outlook, a very positive outlook in regards to the conditions of our school system, where we are, where we've been, where we're going, and the acknowledgement that the good work will continue overall. I thank this board for being able to work side by side with this board in a way that has advanced the agenda. Many of you know that I'm a student of leadership and continuing to read voraciously about what goes into making a quality school system and a quality Board of Education experience. And so when the Board of Education is working with a superintendent, working with a school system, and all arrows are pointing in the same direction, wonderful things happen. And by virtue of enhanced communication and transparency and conversations throughout our tenure working together, this shared vision has become more than just a vision that has been advanced by a singular individual, but a vision that has been embraced by the entire community. So everybody's speaking from the same language, speaking from the same approach and the same focal point, and wonderful things have happened for kids. Wonderful things have happened for kids in that sense. So just take a look at it. More children achieving, more students graduating, more young people advancing to levels of literacy and numeracy and proficiencies. All of that is rewarding. There's where the proof is, the level of credibility. So lots of individuals can have great visions, but the reality is that issue, or is that vision being implemented, and is there proof in terms of the actual data points? So I think on every front, lots will be said in terms of the analysis of those data points as we move forward from where we were, where we are, and where we're going, but we leave with those data points being all in a positive trajectory. And then you tie that in with the culture and the caring, compassionate attitude towards our overall students from our teachers. But as a good teacher, I always leave with pearls of wisdom, things to think about. And the work is not done, board members, you know that. The work continues. The work is never done. I had a conversation with a reporter yesterday, and intentionally, we, individuals in this room, many of our principals here today, we acknowledge that we said we are going to eliminate the achievement gap. Not just close it, because we could say right now, we're so successful in terms of closing the achievement gap, which we are, but when you say you're going to eliminate, that keeps the pressure on. By choice of words, great leaders know to use the right words to galvanize and continue to keep pressure on with that challenge and support model, and we say we are going to eliminate. So when you take care of one particular data point in terms of performance, another one emerges. So when you use those words with intentionality, it keeps the focus on. So we've been able to do that consistently by saying that. So the work is not done. There needs to be great work in terms of equity to make certain our young people are all receiving the same quality of education, that we look at our poverty indicators, as I've stated to you very clearly. Our poverty rates have increased by 10%. At the same time, our graduation rate has increased. Got to keep an eye on that metric. And we've got to keep an eye in terms of our aspects, in terms of how we take care of our staff, both in terms of treatment, as far as acknowledgement and recognition, but also the acknowledgement of the competitive salaries, the aspect of where we are with our funding levels. And those have to be dialogue questions regarding. And so as I stated at the last board meeting, no matter how you slice and dice it, the funding levels of where we are in this state, regardless of what all the noise is, we're 24 out of 24. And that conversation has to occur at a louder level to say where we choose to be as a community, with a wealth index where all those issues are. That has to be occurred without all the noise and the distractions of the conversation. Where is that when intelligent, smart people sit down and have the conversation without all the other noise that occurs to say where are we and where do we want to be and how do we get there? So if you look at any of the data reports regarding funding, if you look at any regards to that, funding matters, and it matters tremendously. So my challenge continues to be that we need to look in terms of the compensation of our own staff, the conversations about funding. Those issues are proverbial and real issues that need to really come home to roost in that sense. We have contended with that for my tenure. We've contended with that prior to my tenure, and it's something that if the community wants an A-plus school system, which we have, how is that sustained and what efforts are advanced to continue that? And so it's the piece of being very planful, very planful about how that approach occurs and having conversations in forums that allow intelligent people to have those conversations regarding those particular pieces, people who know and care regarding to where that is. Because for me, the dictating factor has been all decisions in the best interest of children, providing a fierce level of urgency for our children, never waning from that, and making certain that when you make decisions in the best interest of children, everything else takes care of itself. So this board has consistently done that amidst all the noises, I continue to say, and that noise will always be there because of the natural tensions that occur in communities around funding and tax dollars and things such as that. But the aspect is I walk away feeling very proud of the work that has been done collectively, as well as the work has been done behalf on children. So my final word is great appreciation to all the individuals that I've had the opportunity to work with. It has been an extremely powerful experience for 10 years to immerse in a community that no matter where I go, people engage. Whether it's in the supermarket for 45 minutes and I only go to get a head of lettuce, whether it's the woman who closed down the line one morning at True Value and said, everybody in that line go to the next line because I see the superintendent and I got a problem and I want to talk to him about it. To the person who said, you have legs in Lowe's one day, who was stalking me all through the lumber area and wanted to talk. It's those memories, the interactions with children, the conversations individually, that I walk away with, and I carry everybody, all of you as board members, everybody in the community in my heart. And so as I have my own checklist in terms of transitioning, I will watch with interest. I will watch with great interest of what occurs with our county. but you need to be aware that I will be watching with interest, and I will not be meddling in any way in terms of what needs to occur, but with great interest, because it has been a true love. My family is the love of my life, and the St. Mary's County Public Schools have been this tremendous love affair the last 10 years with our children, with our staff, and there's great care and compassion. So when you lead with the heart, and you care about people, and you keep it at that higher level, and keep all the noise and the nipping dogs away, great things happen. And so with that, I just continue to keep you in my heart. I will pray for this community, for our students, for our children, that this continues at the level which it is, and in turn, think of me just every now and then as that little guy who brought a little bit of energy to the community every now and then. So I thank you, and I thank all of you as well. And I look at the majority of people in here that I know well, with great affection, and I could probably tell you something about each one of you because I've had a quality interaction with all of you, and that warms my heart exponentially. Thank you very much, everybody. Meeting 208, my last one. Thank you. The Cal Ripken of superintendent, somebody said the other day.
Dr. Martirano, thank you very, very
And I
much.
did that without crying. What's up with that?
Let me get my breath here.
Yes.
Moving on into recognitions, board members. The chair would like to exercise a point of personal privilege at this point. And I would like to invite all the board members to the podium with me, including the superintendent. Thank you.
No, another surprise, so.
Good morning. As all of you know, Dr. Martirano is leaving us to head West Virginia's school system as state superintendent. And we are sure that he will give that state the same quality of leadership that he has given to St. Mary's County Public Schools. There has not been a day that Dr. Martirano has not given 100% of his time and energy to our students, our teachers, our staff, our programs, and all our employees. Dr. Martirano has been a 24/7 superintendent. He has often given of his own personal time to make sure that he was involved in every aspect of this school system, from the day-to-day operations to community partnerships. Dr. Martirano, you have given so much to our school system. We would like to give you something to remind you of all of the time we have spent together helping to make our school system the great school system it is today. And on behalf of the Board of Education, St. Mary's County, we would like to present you with this special timepiece to put on your desk in your office and in your new office to remember us by and to remember St. Mary's County. Sir, congratulations, and remember to work hard and be nice.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Mark all the time. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And it's running.
And it's running.
Hold it up, hold it up.
There you go.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Anybody want to say nothing? Let's have a round of applause. Okay, let's move on to the next recognition. September 2014 Attendance Awareness Month, Dr. Ridgel. And Ms. Laser, good morning, how are you? And Charlotte Woodley, how are you this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Attendance Works, America's Promise Alliance, and Points of Light, as well as several other national organizations, in an effort to recognize the importance of school attendance, has designated September 2014 as Student Attendance Month. School attendance has a huge impact on a student's academic success starting in pre-kindergarten and continuing through high school. Even as students grow older and more independent, families play a key role in making sure students get to school safely every day. Regular and consistent attendance is necessary for student achievement, graduation, and college and career readiness. Staff are committed to reducing chronic absences. St. Mary's County Public Schools student attendance policy is based on an overwhelming premise that success is dependent upon a continuous and consistent classroom instructional experience. Students need opportunities to master essential academic knowledge and skills, develop an appropriate sense of self-worth, establish peer relationships, and develop a sense of responsibility. The school cannot educate students or provide support to students when they are absent from school. As a community, we need to ensure that all students have the opportunity to reach their full potential. We need parents, guardians, and community to appreciate the value of arriving at school every day on time.
In recognition of September 2014 Attendance Matters Month, we respectfully request the board's support with a proclamation. Mrs. Charlotte Woodley, one of our PPWs, will read the proclamation.
Attendance Awareness Month. Whereas September has been designated as Attendance Matters Month by Attendance Works, America's Promise Alliance, and the Points of Life, as well as several other national organizations to recognize the importance of school attendance. And whereas good attendance is essential to student achievement, graduation, and college and career readiness, and we are committed to dedicating our resources and attention to reducing habitual absenteeism rates, with a focus starting as early as Head Start. And whereas improving attendance and reducing excessive absences takes commitment, collaboration, and tailored approaches to particular challenges and strengths in each community. And whereas St. Mary's County Public Schools and community partners will continue to reach out to absent students to determine why they are missing school and what would help them attend school more regularly. And whereas St. Mary's County Public Schools will continue to monitor and share attendance data on how many students are chronically absent so that we can deliver the appropriate interventions to the right students. And whereas chronic absences can be significantly reduced when school, parents, legal guardians, and communities work together to monitor and promote good attendance and address hurdles that keep children from getting to school. Now therefore, it be resolved, the Board of Education of St. Mary's County does hereby proclaim September as Attendance Matters Month in St. Mary's County Public Schools and the community. We hereby commit to focus on reducing chronic absenteeism to give all children an equitable opportunity to learn, grow, thrive academically, emotionally, and socially. Signed on this 10th day of September, 2014.
So we thank you for approving and signing the resolution.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports, PBIS. Dr. Ridgel and Ms. Grace. Is that correct?
Dr. Rasbin, board members, Ms. Grace is still upstairs in a meeting, so in her absence, Mrs. Lacer is going to assist in the recognition.
Okay, it's fine.
In our efforts, both statewide and locally, to reduce suspensions and keep students in school, we are constantly searching for evidence-based practices. One of the foremost advances in student behavior is the emphasis on school-wide systems of support that include proactive strategies for defining, teaching, and supporting appropriate student behaviors to create positive school cultures. The Positive Behavioral Intervention and Supports Framework, otherwise known as PBIS, provides a continuum of positive behavioral support for all students within a school and is implemented in both the classroom and non-classroom areas, such as hallways, buses, and cafeteria. Instead of reacting to student misbehavior, the PBIS goals provide modeling and reinforcing of positive social behaviors as an important step in students' education. Teaching behavioral expectations and rewarding students for following appropriate expectations is a more effective approach than waiting for misbehavior to occur before responding. The purpose of school-wide PBIS is to establish a climate in which appropriate behavior is the norm. St. Mary's County Public Schools currently implements the PBIS framework in 15 schools. Each school has adopted 3 to 5 positive behavioral expectations that are consistently taught and reinforced to students, as well as implementing a system to acknowledge students for their good behavior. Behavior data, just like academic data, is reviewed regularly by the school team. School psychologists and pupil personnel workers serve as PBIS coaches to the individual school sites. Each year, PBIS Maryland and the Maryland State Department of Education recognizes schools with outstanding PBIS implementation at 3 levels: gold, silver, and bronze. 11 of the 15 schools were recognized this summer for their effective implementation of PBIS framework. 4 schools, George Washington Carver Elementary, Benjamin Banneker Elementary, Letty Marshall Dent Elementary, and Hollywood Elementary schools, are at the initial stage of implementation and were not eligible for awards this year but will be next year. At this time, we'd like to present the awards for this to the 11 schools. Beginning first with bronze is Deinert Elementary School with Andy Owens as principal, Courtney Town as their PBIS leader, and Jamie Walker as their coach. And because this is their first year, they get the full first year banner,
Nice.
as well as the bronze for 2014.
That's great.
Also getting bronze this year is Mechanicsville Elementary with Jeff Dorenzo principal and Gina Bonsinger as the PBIS team leader. And the third recognition for bronze goes to Piney Point Elementary, Audrey Ellis principal. Now, the Silver School already has their green banner because they have won before, and that is Park Hall Elementary with Kathy Norton as principal, Donna Mix as the PBIS team leader, and Charlotta Woodley as their PBIS coach. The first goal recognition goes to Green Holly Elementary, Ms. Wachula Adams principal, Lynn Baker team leader. Second goal goes to Greenview Knolls Elementary, Emily Mays, assistant principal, Vanessa Hodge, team leader. Third goal goes to Lexington Park Elementary, Erin Johnson, assistant principal.
That's all right.
Also receiving gold this year is Sandy Kerner, Ridge Elementary School.
It's okay.
That's all right.
You worked hard. Town Creek Elementary also received a gold recognition. Marie Hankerson, principal, Debbie Settle, their team leader, and Mrs. Kathy Lacer is their coach.
Good move, principal. You knew where to go. I'll be upstaged by the other school. We would have made you walk it, yeah. There you go, more gold.
Esperanza Middle School also received gold. Jill Mills, principal. Todd D'Imperio, their team leader. Emily Harris and Mary Marquis. And Stacy Murdoch is their coach.
She said you were not beaten.
And the last goal recognition we received this year goes to Spring Ridge Middle School, Miss Angela Falk, principal. And if we could have the new schools join us as well, Benjamin Banneker Elementary School, Deb Bowling, principal, Sarah Stevens, the team leader, and Ms. Walker, that is already up here somewhere, is also their coach. In George Washington Carver Elementary, Annette Wood, principal, and I am their coach. And Pony Point. Letty Marshall Den Elementary, Kelly Courtney, principal, and Rebecca McFarland, their team leader. And the 15th school is Hollywood Elementary, Jennifer Gilman, principal, and Elaine Wagner, team leader.
Okay. Board member, you still back there?
Yeah.
I want to just make sure. Anybody else want recognized? Come on up now. If you'd like to, we can get you all in the picture. Ms. Weaver, you want to join us up here? No, just joking. Wow, like I said at the beginning, looking at all of you, I can tell stories about all of you. I know all of you well, and I know the work that you do on behalf of our children every day. And this is just emblematic of the solid work that occurs, Charles, all of you, for the work that you do regarding PBIS, Positive Behavioral Intervention Services System. And I'm so supportive of that program during my 10 years being here, because of what Mr. Matthews, if people didn't understand what he was talking about at the beginning with his squirt gun story in yellow and green. It is an opportunity for young people to take responsibility for their own behaviors, providing those supports. Behaviors in terms of schools are not necessarily punishments in terms of discipline, but when opportunities occur, to be able to educate a child to make better choices and better decisions. I see a lot of head nods when I said that, recognizing that's what it's about, positive behavior interventions and supports to have young people make better decisions that will help them stay academically engaged without the distractions of the behaviors that get in the way of learning. All of us, in terms of the schools that we have, you've embraced this program so well. What I'm also delighted to see is how many schools have come on board. And then also what we talk about oftentimes in our business is vertical articulation, consistency across grade level, but consistency from pre-K through 12. What I'm delighted to see today is the elementary schools joined with middle schools, because what this has occurred with principal conversations at the middle school level is that when we would transfer from elementary to middle to high, students would say there's a whole different discipline system, a different set of expectations. Parents would say that. But now we have a common language that we're advancing that vertically from elementary to middle to high school, where there's that level of consistency. So that's what's very, very pleasing to all of us. And who benefits from that are our young people. That confusion is not there, different expectations. They start to build on that from pre-K the whole way through 12th grade. And again, when we look at our attendance, we were just talking about that, attendance rates at all-time high, suspension rates are reduced, grading is up for our young people, graduation rates are up. All of that takes into account what occurs in school. So we need to have children in school every day, ready to learn, and focused in terms of the behaviors that instill quality academic experiences as opposed to behaviors that get in the way of that. So round of applause to all of you. Congratulations. So thrilled with all of you. And I was thinking how we're going to get a picture of all of this. We're going to have to break this down, because unless we do one of those panoramic shots in that sense, maybe that new iPhone that was released yesterday will help us do that. But board members, you're still back there, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Dr. Martirano will take a break and take the pictures.
Try to organize that. Give me the opportunity to have me one last picture arranging opportunity. I appreciate
Is
that.
that okay with everybody?
Very
Okay.
good. Okay.
At this time, the board will take a break. Board will reconvene at this time. Madam Secretary, there's no public hearing this evening. Is there any public comment? No public comment. Thank you, no public comment. Moving along, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Everyone in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Action items. First action item is the Chesapeake Public Charter School renewal. Ms. Hall? Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for allowing us to come back. We have the Chesapeake Public Charter School finished contract. You've had several weeks to take a look and review it. We're hopeful that you will approve it today, and we are prepared to have it signed. I'd like to introduce some of the people from the Chesapeake Public Charter School Alliance that are here with us today. We have our chairperson, Robin Bainey. We have Tara Duarte, and we have Anne Marie Daly. And of course, with me here at the podium is the Chesapeake Public Charter School Director, the principal, Angela Funya. Okay. Do you have any questions or
Okay,
comments?
board members, before we get into the signing of the agreement, questions or comments? Mrs. Allen?
I'm really pleased to be able to do this. It has been an amazing journey, and a very important one, an important part of who we are as a system. And earlier, when we did board reports, I talked about all of the wonderful programs, the things that we have done here in St. Mary's County over the last 10 years, and how I have the distinct pleasure to be able to talk about, and I won't say boast, but to certainly talk about our pride in carrying out programs effectively, asking the right questions, making certain that things are aligned with what our vision and mission are, and giving board members across the state the opportunity to hear about what we've done. And the charter school is among the top things I talk about, because I think that while there was a rocky start, I think that we found a process that worked. We moved forward with it, and the proof is in the success that it has enjoyed over these years. And so I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to be here today. I appreciate that we took a little additional time, a few extra months, to make sure that we were all comfortable moving forward. And so having the assurance of Mrs. McCourt that she is has looked through, and I especially like the way that the budget numbers are detailed, how to arrive at those numbers are now detailed in the contract. I think that was an excellent addition to that piece. And I know that Mr. O'Mealy has had extensive conversations as this process has gone
Indeed.
on. And so I rely greatly upon the expertise of those two individuals. I certainly can and have read the contract several times, looking for specific things, making sure that I felt that the interests of both the charter school as well as the school board were addressed appropriately, and I think they clearly are. So my hat is off to all of you. It is just wonderful to be here, so congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Allen. Mrs. Washington?
Hello. I was so excited about the school when I first heard about it in the beginning. And one word that people failed to put in front of charter school was public charter school. So there was a lot of misunderstanding at first. But it is a public charter school open to all students. And we are now a model of success for the state of Maryland. We have over 200 students on the wait list. And that tells you how successful the school is, because parents are just hoping and praying that their number will be picked so their child will attend the charter school. Many charter schools fail after a few years, but we are still existing. We are still thriving and being successful with students. So thank you all for your hard work and dedication to the charter school. It is an innovative school, and it has a lot of success. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Washington.
Mr. Matthew?
Thank you. You're doing great things. We've dotted the i's and crossed the t's, and everything looks like it should be. And thank you very much, and I look forward to moving along with it. Thank you.
Success, success, and more success, right? Yeah, remember the early days with Mrs. Allen and Mrs. Washington and some of the buildings we looked at when we were getting started with this. And some of the places that, were even falling down that people were looking at, and it was very, very difficult because we just couldn't find a place. And then fortunately, the building, that we have now, you have now, is a beautiful place, excellent place to have a school. And we're going to continue with that and expand it. And, it's amazing when you're looking for things and you call and pray, it happens, doesn't it? It happens. And I know the kids are having fun there, and the parents and the community are enjoying themselves. And one of these days, I want to see those tomatoes up there growing. And somebody said had chickens, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, chickens. Have to come by and see the chickens. Everybody loves to look at chickens. We got the county fair. And if you haven't been to the county fair to look at the chickens and the roosters, you need to go see, because some of those birds are really, the colors are really beautiful. It's amazing, absolutely. But we applaud you, we applaud everyone, and we're all part of this success, and we enjoy this, and we see much success ahead of us, and that's wonderful. Dr. Marano, you want to say anything before
No.
we?
I'm just, the symbolism of this is just incredible, as we had talked, being that this is my last board meeting, and my very first interaction on July 1st, 2005 as superintendent was addressing the issues of the charter school. I had stated at the last meeting that the decision regarding the process, as you had all had referenced, the beginning phases of this was taken to the state board and remanded back. And I was given clear direction to begin the process of figuring it out and doing what was necessary. The very first issue, the last issue that I'm dealing with and addressing on my tenure, and very pleased to be addressing, is the fact of the renewal of the charter for the charter school. So all that said, the symbolism within there is palpable, but the other piece is that the work that has occurred in between with the members of the Alliance, the faculty, the staff, the community, what you've been able to do. And Ange, I'll say it for the last time to you publicly, where all this made sense to me, because there was some clear pieces in terms of what we were using, words such as wickets and gates and things that we had to make sure that were being handled because of the history across the nation of charter schools. What we said clearly was we just wanted to ensure that it was going to be successful. That the money was so much of a concern that we didn't have the ability just to throw money at an experiment. Remember those conversations occurring? These were things that were occurring in public. We wanted to get it right. We wanted to make certain it was going to be excellent. It was going to sustain over time. The other piece, and I remember exactly where I was when I sort of had my own epiphany with it, where it all made sense, was the implementation, the beginning of the implementation of our choice-based model. And so my educational philosophy that everybody knows is that in order to have a high-quality performing school system, choice has to be a part of that experience for young people. One size does not fit all. We recognize that not one student learns on the same way in the same day. So advancing that philosophically, as we look back, over 10%, probably a higher percentage now, of our young people are in choice-based programs, and the Chesapeake Public Charter School falls within that overall umbrella as another alternative educational experience for our students, which again contributes to the overall success. So the program of which you offer, the basic school model, which is as serving as the foundation, the infusion of the variety of other pieces that you've talked about through the connections with nature and the uniforms, a variety of other things, has created this tremendously wonderful learning environment overall. Pre-K through 8. I want to make sure I got everything. Give me
K to 8.
K to 8. K to 8. Recognizing the number of times I've been to your school, students thriving, teachers wanting to be there, and it's a different delivery model, but also held to the same standards of accountability. So it works well, recognizing this is the only charter school in the Southern Maryland region and has been lifted up and has been acclaimed as a state model and in many ways as a national model for implementation of the work that occurs with the Board of Education as the ultimate governing body, with the Alliance in terms of oversight, the work with staff. And personally, I say that we were so committed to this that Kelly Hall, I give you great praise and honor publicly as being my hand-chosen selected individuals to serve as the liaison for the charter school during our tenure of which this program has been implemented. And I'm convinced that that will continue. But by virtue of having the liaison piece, the accountability piece, the work that you've done, Kelly, with Ange, with the Alliance, with the teachers, has made all of this work. And this board has been extremely diligent in terms of due diligence, making certain you've done the judicious acts that needed to occur to hold individuals accountable to the quality of the program. Because if you look at the history of charter schools across the nation, some of them are left to their own demise in many ways. Not all of them are successful. And because I think of that lack of joint leadership and joint understanding, that's where some of them absolutely don't make it. And that's unfortunate. So we put our full force behind this, recognizing the uniqueness of the program, and it worked. And I'm thrilled that one of my last actions as superintendent of this district is to continue to sustain this effort for years to come. Very symbolic, but also very real in terms of the difference that's being made for young people, and that's the guiding theme. So congratulations. I'm honored to advance this to the board today, and I'm thrilled with the parent involvement and everything in the board's due diligence on this. So those are my words regarding that, Dr. Raspa. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Martirana. Okay, board members, this is action item.
I move that the Board of Education approve the 5-year contract renewal for the charter for the Chesapeake Public Charter School as presented. And let me point out, this is the second renewal.
Exactly.
That's right.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion, we have a second. Everyone in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. Okay.
Wonderful.
So,
Round of applause for everybody. A specific round of applause for Mr. O'Mealy, our legal representative, who has vetted this every T and I through that process as well. So we're very pleased about that. Thank you.
shall we proceed and do the signing of the agreement now?
That would be lovely, thank you.
I just have something I wanted to say to Dr. Martirano, if you wanted to come over here.
I'm scared.
Come on over.
Usually we're having cognitive.
We know your symbolism of the beginning and the end, right? So I thought really long and hard about what we could give you as a remembrance of us, and immediately I came to Stoplight, but I chose not to go that route. Yeah. So anyway, we came up with this, which was a photograph of the dedication of our school. And so we thought that you could take that with you to West Virginia and maybe start a couple charter schools over there. Thank you very much for everything. Appreciate it. Oh, and you can have the nice committee too.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody as well. It's wonderful. So let's let the signing begin.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mrs. Bainey, Dr. Raspa, Mr. O'Mealy.
Okay, moving along. Next action item is the comprehensive maintenance plan for educational facilities, 2014. Okay, Mr. Whidden,
Good morning.
good morning.
Morning.
Another year, and the comprehensive maintenance plan for educational facilities by Comar has to be submitted to the board and approved and forwarded to the state as well as the county commissioners. There haven't been any drastic changes in the plan. So I'd like to go over some matrices that show how healthy the plan, the functions, and the tasks detailed in there are working. There are some areas of concern, and this is our mission statement: to provide services and support of the learning environment that ensure safe, comfortable, attractive, and well-maintained facilities for students, staff, and the community. The metrics or the things we'll go over today briefly will be that indicate the health of the maintenance department are utilization, work order trends, budget, and customer satisfaction. After 7 years now, which you'll see going through here, or what I saw going through here, was we've leveled off. Our utilization, the amount of planned and unplanned work, or emergency work and non-emergency work, if you could term it that way, have leveled off. Very happy with that. I can move on to other things and try to improve other areas, but the first thing was getting everything stable and functioning correctly. So our utilization is at 80%. Last year it was at 79, and the year before that was 84. So I think we've leveled off. I'm very happy with that level of effort. The planned and unplanned work order, if you don't mind, sometimes I spend too much time on this. Sometimes I want to make sure that I communicate the importance of this. Is 7, 8 years ago, we had the red line represents unplanned work, which is, oh my God, and everyone was running around and buying just trying to get things going. This is not what I would consider healthy. We were turning over about 9,800 work orders a year, but as you can see, 7,700 of them were, oh my God, kind of phone calls, and only 2,100 were planned or ahead of time, and they were designed to be preventative. We worked on that, and you can see by 2011 we got it a little stable, and since then it's almost been a straight line. I would like to see that go away completely. I don't think that I'll ever get there. I've tried. I think it has a lot to do with the nature of the beast. I have seen it lower than this as far as percentiles go, but not much in my career, I mean. So we are still turning over about 9,400 work orders a year. You can see that 5,100 of them are planned compared to 2,100 7 years ago, and that's been pretty stable. So I'm very happy with the stabling out of the utilization rate. So the guys, the crews have gotten a rhythm, and I'm very happy with the proportion of planned to unplanned. Although I'm always trying to figure out how to get that red line down further. I don't know that I'll ever succeed, but I will not stop trying. Budget, basically, there's a couple ways to look at budget. It can be, on a maintenance budget, you can look at percent of replacement cost of your facilities that you spend on maintenance. Like if you owned a $200,000 home, you want to spend a minimum, let's say, $200 a year on maintenance. Or you can look at it as per square foot. Per square foot, there's a lot more documentation to tell you where you should be. So $1.23 to $1.42 a square foot. Last fiscal year, we dropped to $1.20. That was not the plan when we started out, but as you know, the end of last fiscal year, we had to reprioritize some projects. So that dropped to $1.20. This is over history, you can see. And please note that all these are corrected to 2006 values. And the reason that was done was in 2006, the Fed corrected to $1. So it was easy to pick that date and time. There was no other reason I picked that except that was an easy multiplier. There are two budget issues I'd like to talk about. First is fleet vehicles, or the vehicle fleet, and the other one is FTEs, but I'll tackle probably the easier one first. Is our average vehicle in our fleet has 94,000 miles. That's not as impressive as the fact that they're 12 years old. A lot of rust, a lot of wear and tear. We are replacing. I ordered 3 transmissions yesterday. So over the next 3 years, we really need to, I would recommend, and I am recommending, replace at least 3 vehicles every year for the next 3 years, and continue with 1 to 2 vehicles a year after that to keep the fleet as available as it is currently. It's getting used a lot more, with some changes in usage patterns we've seen over the past year. You will see what looks like newer vehicles in our fleet. 2 of those are replacement from vehicle accidents, and 1 of those is was purchased. It was a planned replacement purchase. And yeah, here's the 3 vehicles for the next 3 fiscal years. It's about $57,000 a year. We have a lot of the PPW cars coming into the of age now. You see, like, the green and the red ones have rust around the emblem on the side, and they really need some attention. That, and we have some IT vehicles where they drive sedans and cars also that are coming back into the fold. Staff, I've laid out the staff on page 37 of the plan, but I have to request, I know that it may not be possible, but I have to request at least 2. Unfortunately, I've lost 3 positions over the past 4 or 5 years, and unfortunately, when we have done that, the positions have all been open in the HVAC and plumbing area. So instead of laying someone off, we just didn't refill that position, so I'm kind of short in those 2 areas. Plus, I'm taking on more square footage. You can see the square footage just stays stable. Evergreen is in here, and then I'll be taking on another 70,000. But the details are on page 71 over time. And then customer satisfaction, we did see a increasing satisfaction in climate control. I was very happy with that, although it wasn't a big number. I'd like to see that become 80% increase. That is still one of the sorest points with the overall grade coming in at fair. This is where comfort control came in. But it is an increase. I'm happy about that. And asphalt decreased, but we kind of expected that. Right after the last winter, we went through a survey to map out potholes, and 208 potholes, and I think the estimate at that point was about $80,000 worth of repair in potholes alone. And we are actively pursuing that, and we're trying to get all of them, or the major ones, corrected before the asphalt plant shut down in a couple months. So, some accomplishments with the new leadership at the health department. We've had to create several documents to coordinate effort if there ever is a question about potable water in the school systems. Half our school systems, by the way, are on well. So we do independent testing outside of MedCom. So we had to develop a potable water protocol to make sure that the health department and we were all on the same page, so that it got turned over very quickly and the public could be reassured that all departments were communicating. Equipment material disposal standard, we found out in the middle of last year that schools were requesting us to dispose of their equipment, which was fine, except we had assumed that they had already disposed of them through fiscal services, which they hadn't. So we came up with an operating procedure within the Department of Maintenance, because we're typically the ones that get called to make sure that they're disposed of properly. The paperwork, they're taken off the inventory before they're taken and actually disposed of, which could be either to the dump or to an auction. So developed, issued, and managed work resulting in 45 RFQs, requests for quotations. We developed 10 scopes of work for formal bidding, which are projects typically right around or above $25,000, which included arsenic removal systems, flooring, stadium field care, painting, those types of things. Revised the emergency preparedness procedures for utility systems and related emergencies. This is this manual is directly related and shows exact locations of all major shutoffs in the building for fire, potable water, electric, how to secure the building and the air system in the building if we are unable to do it from DSS in the case of an airborne event. We removed 49 inches of snow on 11 different occasions. The average is 33 inches, or over average. We accumulated 33.5 inches over average this year, and we were 4 degrees below average. And we were 4 degrees below average, and we had all this snow, And although I was unhappy this occurred, the only thing that occurred the winter that disrupted the learning environment was an underground sprinkler main break at Leonardtown High School. I don't know if you recall that. It happened out back. It was 8 foot underground. It didn't freeze. Best we could figure from after we dug it up was there was a support issue that decided to, the ground support issue that decided to show up during the winter. It cracked the pipe. So I was very happy with that. I can remember many a winter when I first got here that I was saddened by some of the disruptions. Managed work performed and supplied under 42 individual contracts. I'm sure there's other departments that manage more contracts than that, but I consider that a huge thing, because that's 42 contracts here, and then 10 scopes of work we develop and put out in the street. We get that work executed, and I think it was 45 RFQs that we also do. So we manage quite a bit of different projects. They are small, but they all still take time. And Great Mills finally got new carpet in the auditorium. That turned out really well, and Mr. Heibel was real happy about that. And it hadn't been replaced in, about 20 years. It held up a long time, but it was time to look, it looked funny, though, when the old carpet was 1970s, 1980s kind of design, and the new carpet wasn't, so it was interesting. And we worked with the Maryland State Police and the Fire Marshal's Office on several egress concerns. All were resolved without expense to SMCPS. The State Police and the Fire Marshal Office have ramped up their inspections, and things that have previously been acceptable are not anymore. And that's fine. We've corrected them all, but we work with them to come up with a way to correct them at minimal expense, which in this case was not a budget change, so it was no expense. And then some of the people that make it happen every day. The fellow in the green shirt there, his title is wastewater building system operator. He oversees all the HVAC systems, alarms, building alarms. He spends all day in what we call the fishbowl. You can see the windows, it's almost a cage, but his name's Ronnie. He does an excellent job. The man is excellent at notating everything that goes wrong after looking at all those points. All the data coming in probably exceeds 10,000 bits of data that he has to review, which is, he does a very good job of it. There's Jessie, she reminds me where I need to be and what I need to do every day. Miss Sharon, she's a work order specialist. She's the one that takes in, processes, and closes those 9,000 work orders a day. She also acts as the operator for the building most of the time, and directing traffic that way, and she keeps she'll look up historical information for our techs when they're going to work on something so they know what someone else has done before. And there's Miss Kathy Murphy over there paying the bills. And then there's various shots. That's Mr. Quaid. As he like to say, everything from piano benches to stools. And then here's Hollywood's roof. This is probably about a week ago. We're putting on a new ceiling on the roof to keep it intact for another 9 years. Setting up for graduations is a big event every year. The guys actually enjoy that. It's a huge undertaking, but it's a big, in a way, it can be a large morale booster for we know it's the end of the school year. We're watching kids that we've seen grow up through the system make their way out into the world, and keeping the heat on. I'm very, very pleased with my foreman, my team leader on the boiler side. He took it upon himself to put together a course to teach all the operators some of the new technologies. And I actually had them line up at Margaret Brent, where we have 6 or 8 boilers lined up in a row anyhow because of the way the system is designed, and just held a class. It was great. They do a lot to support each other, and I do a lot to support them also, but it makes me happier that they do a lot to support each other. And it's more of a team, and there's the team. There's only probably 1 or 2 missing out of there. That crew takes care of about 2.3 million square foot, 2.33 million square foot. I can't tell you how many. I have the numbers are in the book. But off the top of my head, can't tell you how many individual air conditioning units. There's only about 4 in there that do air conditioning and heating, and there's only 2 in there that do plumbing, and that's a lot of fixtures that they all have to take care of. With that, any questions?
Okay, board members? Questions or comments? Mr. Matthews?
That's a lot of square footage for a few people to take care of. I appreciate all the hard work that gets done. I can see the way the work orders are coming in. You're doing it effectively and efficiently, and I appreciate that, and thank you very much.
You're very welcome, sir. My pleasure.
Mrs. Washington.
Thank you. You've made us aware of your challenges and your improvements, and your challenges include the increase in square footage and your reduced workforce. Your improvements have been in the area of the planned workload versus the unplanned workload, and you're continuing to find ways to get rid of the unplanned workforce. And you have also improved your processes, including developing an equipment, material, property disposal method in addition to other methods. And I want to thank you for continuing to focus on continuous improvements, and thank you for continuing to successfully do more with less. Thank you very much.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Mrs. Washington. Mrs. Allen.
As I looked at the presentation and I read through the maintenance plan, several things struck me. The thoroughness with which you approach this, the process that you use to approach it in a mindful, proactive manner. I saw in the presentation that you just showed us the work order trends and the comment about the fact that there had been a drastic increase in just the sheer number of work requests. But I also then noted in the plan that you addressed my concern before I could ever state it, which is that you already have a plan to monitor those requests to determine if there are specifics about kind of request and so forth, so that you can address those as in a way that helps you, so you understand what the requests are, why they're coming in, and is there something else we should be doing about it. I was also struck by the report where it talked about the average backlog in work orders. In 2008, the fact was we were at a 23-day average backlog, and now in 2014, we're at almost 39-day average backlog. I mean, that's just another way that's saying to me that we don't have the staff we need to address the issues that we have. Mrs. Washington often talks about the fact that, I think we all do, that our buildings are impressive, they're well cared for, but that doesn't happen by accident. And we have really got to work in that direction to make sure that we are maintaining those buildings for the long haul. I talk about the fact that I've said to people, different people before, my mom went to public school in Washington, D.C. When she started high school, the high school then was 50 years old, and it's still in use, and Mom graduated in 1945. So that tells you that school's been in place for a very long time. I want to see our schools be quality schools that can last the test of time. And I also noticed that in terms of maintenance budget, that you have a chart that details the fact that in 1991, the maintenance budget was over $3 million, just over, but with 1.59 million square feet, giving us a square foot average cost of $1.93 per square foot. And now in 2014, our budget has dropped to $2.78 million for maintenance. But our square footage has gone up to 2.3 million square feet, and so our square foot cost is $1.20 per square foot. That's a significant difference. When you talked about our vehicles, yes, I've heard different individuals make comments about, wow, they look so great, there's obviously no problem with them. I think sometimes we're a victim of our own success. We need safe vehicles. We need reliable vehicles. I know the vehicles are safe. I know you would not put them on the road if they were not safe. But we need vehicles that are reliable, that aren't going to leave any of our staff on the side of the road because there's a breakdown. And to have only 2 plumbers on staff for 2.31 million square feet of space, My hat is off to those two, because I really quite don't understand how, with the number of restrooms, I'll just say it that way, the number of restrooms we have and the usage that they, that occurs, that we're able to do that with just 2 people. And for HVAC, again, a lot of square footage, complex systems. You know, we're moving away from boilers. There's a lot more involved. I know that a lot of what you've done is making sure that we're working smarter, that you're using systems you've managed to bring online systems that allow staff to work much more effectively and efficiently. But we still have got to find a way to help our funding agents understand that while they have given us additional dollars, our cost to do business has also increased, and we cannot ignore that. And how we do that, I don't know. It's one of the reasons I talked last meeting about the first day of school visits and how impressed I was that Delegate O'Donnell spent the entire day we started at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we were finishing up after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and he was a very diligent student, as I talked about, and Mr. Farrell talked about, and the principals talked about the schools, the challenges that we face. I wish more of our commissioners would avail themselves of the opportunity to go on first day visits and have a firsthand appreciation for everything that's going on in our schools every day. So that's a long way of me saying you're doing a great job, your staff is doing a great job. But there are challenges, and we have to address those challenges. So thank you for sharing this with us again this year.
Okay, board members, we need a motion.
I move that the Board of Education approve the 2014 Comprehensive Maintenance Plan for Educational Facilities.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Everyone in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very, very much. Please relay to the staff that we thank them very much.
We traditionally, after Dr. M suggested it several years ago, we traditionally have a meeting about a week and a half from now where me and the secretaries, the office staff pitch in and buy them all lunch, and I go over the presentation and let them see your comments back to them. And, so that's been a great tradition.
Excellent,
that Dr.
yes.
M started.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. FY 2016 State Capital Improvements Program, Mr. Clements and Mrs. Rowe. How? Oh, excuse me, how?
Good morning.
The H looks like an O.
Good morning.
I wanted to start out, then Mrs. Howell will take over really on the capital program. And she will be able to link what Mr. Whidden just went through as far as the capital of maintenance and how the two of them have really worked over the last 6 years to bring that together and keeping buildings up to date. I wanted to talk about a couple of the things as we started. Captain Walter Francis Duke, in your monthly report that you received from the division, you'll see some more pictures in there of how that project's moving along. We're a year away from opening, less than that now at this point. Redistricting, Mrs. Howe and her staff is working on that now. Letters will be going out to the schools, and we'll be working through that process. The first major step in that is presenting to the interim superintendent in December the proposed plan. In January, you will receive the plan as an information item, and then in February for action. But the method of excuse me, that we will be doing is what we've done before. The team will be there together. They will do their work. Any public, anyone from the public that comes is willing to come. They can watch the committee and work, and then at the end of that part, we'll take any discussions that the community may bring to the meeting and be able to take that into it. The new elementary school is right behind this. Mrs. Howe will talk more about that. Looking for a site for that, of course, and we've been working, Mrs. Howe and Mr. Leaf from Mr. O'Mealy's firm have been working for several months, and today, as I shared with you, we bring you the contract to sign for that property. So that is a great place to be as we're just starting to plan for the third elementary school, and this is going to be in the central part, but it's the central development district, but it's in the southern part of that development district. And then we will go into a feasibility study and the Maryland Clearinghouse for approval of that property. This piece of property should go very well through that and be able to move forward. I just want to point out there, you can see in FY15, in this chart, in the charts, these two charts I'm going to show you, the red indicates where we're seats short. So the need for an elementary school is definitely there, as you can see by the numbers, and we're housing the students by relocatables at this time. The one there, Green Holly, Mrs. Howe and her staff is working with me. It's showing like 147 seats, but because of the program there, not that many seats are available. And so we're trying to be able to break that down and share that, what's available to use. And the reason I say that is that's the capacity of the whole building. However, that's the building before we started housing the Judy Hoyer Center. And now we house, as of this year, we have 2 Head Start programs there, and we have some special education programs there, infant, toddler, and things. So those take away from the capacity. So we want to adjust this number as we move into redistricting. It's not going to go away, but it should come down so that when working with the committee, we'll have a realistic number to work with. From there, it's pretty self-explanatory where we're at for bringing on Captain Walter Francis Duke and the need for the next elementary school. So Ms. Howe will go into them a little bit more. Of course, the high school, middle school, as far as the charts, they're the same way as regarding the red and black. You see for FY15, we're in fairly good shape. Leonardtown High School, a red number, has been there for a number of years, and we've had the relocatables in place there since before the renovation took place, which is almost 10 years ago. So that we're addressing. We have a piece of property that we're looking at feasibility study on. There's another piece of property which is also maybe in play we'll look at for a high school, hopefully a high school, middle school combination, because that would make this phase-in of a high school from a middle school to a high school much simpler as we move forward. We did receive word, working with the county on the high school site we have, that they want some commitment from the state as far as the state concurring with the project and the property before the local. We'll try to get that ironed out because the state's telling us they want the local to do a commitment. So we're in the middle on this. That's something that superintendent just recently got, and so we'll be working through that to try to at least get one side or the other moving forward. So with that, I want to turn it to Mrs. Howe to really go through the plan, and today it's mainly on the state capital improvements, but she brings the total picture with the local. Thank you.
As Mr. Clement said, it's very apropos that Mr. Whidden presented before I did. There is a direct correlation between the comprehensive maintenance plan and the state capital improvements program and the local capital improvements program. We spend many hours in both of our offices talking about the projects that you're going to see today and how they dovetail together. His exhaustive work about maintaining our facilities, at some point they wind up needing to manifest themselves into a capital improvements program project. He highlighted the roof at Hollywood. He talked about paving. He talked about asphalt. He talked about flooring. All of those things at some point get to a point where you can only maintain them to such a degree, which he does wonderfully, but at some point they do have to come forward as a capital improvements program project. His program that he brought forward to you articulates that schedule very well. And we'll talk about a lot of those projects that you're going to see here that have reached their useful life and now need to come into the capital improvements program. As Mr. Clements said, we do have a need for an elementary school. We do have a need for a high school. Those are in here as well. And what we are talking about today is the approval of those state projects. We'll be back before you in either the last meeting in November, the first meeting in December, to talk about local. So this begins our CIP process. We presented the master plan to you. In August, we presented it to the Planning Commission on Monday. So we're full in cycle for the budget cycle. There's some things that have really changed this budget cycle for us, though. We get in August their instructions, and they're around 35 pages long from the public school construction program of how to prepare our state capital improvements program. And with it this year, we knew that we were going to get a new cost per dollar construction fee. We knew that there was some talk about there was going to be a change in our state share. And when we got this, I eventually, started looking at it. I'm like, no, I just want to get to page 5, and I want to look at it. And I was very shocked to see some numbers. The first was there's a construction cost increase of 4%. So the per dollar amount went up 4%. And then I looked at our state share, which was on the last page. And we're going from 64% state participation to 59% for this fiscal year. Next fiscal year for FY 2017 and 2018, it drops to 58%. And I knew that was going to have a profound effect on our state and local share, so I immediately started going into the analysis and tried to figure out what that was going to do. And I'm going to present those facts to you because it does have a profound effect on the dynamics of our CIP. The other thing that happened is this year is the first year that we don't get the state funding for high performance building. It was a 2% addition that was added to the state funding, of which they paid their portion. So that had to come over to the local because the requirement's there that we still have to meet the high performance requirements for all of our new construction or anything that has greater than 50% renovation. But now we have to incur that additional 2% on our cost. The other thing that helped us, though, and this goes back to the red chart that Mr. Clements said, was in the past we always had to use contiguous boundaries for our schools that we're going to have in addition. And those were predetermined by the state a long time ago. And we could make adjustments like when we do Duke and we have new boundaries, we'll go back and we'll readjust those. But what they've said for the purpose of determining eligibility, if you know that you're going to use a school outside of that attendance area for the adjacent schools, you can use one outside if you know that you're going to use it for redistricting. So that was something that we can look at as we start talking about that new elementary school. We can start thinking about what schools would we realign, who would we consider, and we can support that. The net fiscal impact was significant. The local share went up $9.5 million as a result of those changes. And the way that breaks out, and I broke it out by category. So I did all of the analysis to figure the impact of each one so that we could explain it. The 4% cost increase that we would have experienced, whether there had been a change in the state participation or not, was an increase of $2.5 million at the state and 2.7, so a $5.2 million increase on all of the state eligible projects, and the local that we know that needed to go up. So it was $5.2 million for the 4% increase. The 5% change resulted in a $4.8 million resulting in the state share and a resulting increase in the local. So it had a very significant impact when you start looking at that percent change. And then we have to add in, when we start looking at it, we added a fiscal year, so we did bring in some projects, so we added what's called a new fiscal year when we brought in fiscal year 2021, which added $379,000 to local and $228,000 to the state. And then we had some scope changes, and then this is where the correlation between Mr. Whidden's comprehensive maintenance plan and our projects start to correlate. And for instance, we added $240,000 to fiscal year 16 for Esperanza Middle School tennis courts. We already had tennis court projects in there, but as a result of discussions with Mr. Whidden, they're starting to fail at a rate that we really need to accelerate them into the plan. He talked about flooring, he talked about paving. We had to increase those a little bit as well. So flooring, we just added $60,000. It doesn't sound like much when we start talking about it, but the impact to what he's able to achieve with the $60,000 is very significant. And the major change on that $1.6 million is the tracks at Chopticon and Great Mills. Based on all of the work that Mr. Hartwick did, and it really truly is a collaborative effort at DSS, based on the efforts that Mr. Hartwick just put into the recent track and all of the work that we found from that, we increased those projects by $1.3 million based on what we know that we need to do the milling, and it's probably going to be very similar. We increased both of those, so that total was 1.3. As you're going to see on the next one, we then made some adjustments because we knew we went up 9.5. Local, the state, based on those two increases, the $4 million increase and the reduction of 5 and the other two, we have a net loss of almost $2 million of state funding for the 6-year plan. So we had to make some little adjustments and some tweaks. So if we look at what we really did, the big adjustment on that, and what you'll notice is the 2 tracks. We separated the projects and we did the tennis courts in 16 and we moved the track down to 17, and that helped us make some of that shift on that increase a little bit easier. But what we have for our 16 project request is Captain Walter Francis Duke is local. All the funding has been appropriated from the state, so that'll be a local request. Our state request is one project, and it's a significant one. It's Spring Ridge Middle School, and that will be a $7 million request. So we have one project, and that will be for the completion of the funding of Spring Ridge Middle School. We do have the new elementary school that Mr. Clements talked about. What we have in there is some preliminary. We have the site that's coming forward. We have some preliminary money in there to start looking at that, advancing it, because we know in FY17 we want to ask for planning approval. We want to make sure we have everything in alignment so that we'll be successful in achieving that. We kept money in for Qualified Zone Academy. We started adding this. This is a new year added. We started adding this to our local CIP. It used to be on a grants page. We added it here. That way we can get the local money. It comes with no local, no design money at the state. It is just for construction, so we added some local design money so that we can keep those projects moving forward when we get them. We have the second year local money for the site acquisition. The Fairlead Academy, what we did with this project, we had moved the relocatables down to Spring Ridge. And one of the things we looked at was the possibility, we split this out a little bit. All of the money had been in 16. We moved it out to 17 because that would stage it when the relocatables would be available to move to Fairlead. We made that a state eligible project because they're state relocatables. Maximizes our ability to use state funding. We talk about some of those correlations again. This is another one where you start to see that correlation. Marshall Dent partial rooftop units and the Great Mills High School rooftop units. They're only partials. We're only going to replace those things that need to be replaced, not going in and doing everything. And this is another correlated project to the comprehensive maintenance plan. They've been identified. They're being held through infrastructure replacement or parts that he needs to do at this point, but they're coming forward for their replacement. We have the track, or the tennis courts that we talked about, the relocatables. We're going to continue to see enrollment increases, and as that we do that, we're going to continue to look, do we have relocatables at the Northern Annex that we can move and relocate, or do we need to purchase new? So we have the money in there to do that. And then continuing with the advancement of our playground study and the flooring for various schools, which is used in conjunction with the comprehensive maintenance plan. And then going into 17, we have, again, Piney Point partial roof replacement. At the time that building was done, we didn't need to do all of the roof, so we only did the portion that needed to be done. It's now come due. We moved the tracks out for Great Mills and Chopticon to FY17. We have site paving and parking lot. In 18, we have the Bethune Educational HVAC system, the warehouse, and the 3 interior basketball scoreboards. And in 19 is where we see the high school. And where we are currently with the projections, it seems to be on track. What you don't see, because it's outside of that FY 2020 project list, is the corresponding middle school. That's going to come in around 2023. Coming on down, we have the Mechanicsville modernization, the Evergreen primary building, which we switched out last year for the new elementary school. And 2 more projects that are supported in the comprehensive plan for maintenance are the Green Holly switchgear and HVAC and the Hollywood partial roof replacement. In Mr. Whidden's presentation, you saw that he was skim coating that with the white, and that's going to get us through until we can do the partial roof replacement. Looking at the numbers, what you'll see is we're looking for a $3 million request in FY16 compared to our baseline of where we were supposed to be, which was 3.8. With everything that happened and all those numbers I shared, we're still coming in with a request that's $830,000 less than where we were last year. So we feel very comfortable that with the proposal that we have before you today, meets the needs of the county in terms of school capacity and infrastructure, accounts for all of the changes that we saw which were significant, and puts us in very good fiscal position to ask for this request. The one change that you will see, though, is overall, it is still $8.3 million up for the 5 years that we're comparing the baseline to. So this is a proposal that we have before you for consideration.
Very extensive report.
Yes, and today is just for the state. We will be back at some point in the
Yeah.
future to address the local.
Very extensive report. Thank you very much. Board members, there's a lot here to digest, obviously. Mrs. Allen?
We've been talking about the fact that the county's wealth has been increasing over a number of years. And that's well documented. It's well documented that we've talked about it. It's well documented at the state level, and the commissioners have talked about the fact that the wealth index here has changed. And this is formula driven.
Yes, it is.
And so it's difficult because we were at one point at the state share of various state eligible projects, and not all projects are state eligible projects that were 74% that the state would pick up. And now we're about to drop to 59%. That is a significant, significant drop. Had an interesting conversation just recently with some folks from another county, including a superintendent. The fact that we have addressed over time modernizing schools because that's where the state was willing to put their money.
Yes.
And we tried very hard to utilize funds where we knew that they were both needed and the state was willing and believed in putting their money. We have adapted over time, and I think we've done that very effectively. So we've been able to utilize the dollars in a very efficient and effective way. We know what our needs are, and when you look at the relocatables that are stacked up at different sites, I don't care whether you call them learning cottages or whatever nice name you put on them, they're relocatables. They're impermanent structures that we seem to have made permanent. We have a long-term plan. We have an ongoing long-term plan. So you've put a lot of work into this. I appreciate it, and we'll go forward and send it to the state, see what their reaction is, and we'll see what happens as the local projects come forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Allen. Mrs. Washington?
Thank you, Mrs. Howe. You have done a tremendous amount of work on this project. You tried to juggle the numbers in the project so you could deal with increased costs in construction and the state's lower share of participation, which is 5%, which is tremendous. So thank you for all your efforts in trying to make this work for us. And as long as I've been here, the state's share has been going down for St. Mary's County and getting lower. So we have to try to get additional funding so that we can continue to have the projects that we need to meet the needs of our students and communities.
Yes,
Thank you.
and a 9% change in the state share this year was challenging with the 4% cost increase and the 5% state
5%.
share. A 9%
Correct.
change is difficult.
That's major change. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Washington. Mr. Matthews?
Thank you for all your hard work. I know you work on this so much, and it's constantly moving as money's taken away, and the 9% swing is huge.
It is.
When you take into consideration the wealth factor and everything else that adjusts that, it's hard. But the flip side of the coin, we are a growing community. We are expanding. People are moving into St. Mary's County. Everybody's hearing how wonderful the school system is. So we're moving in the right direction. We just need to tweak the funding a little bit. But thank you for all your hard work, and we'll see what the state says.
Yes.
Dr. Marano, you have any?
Yeah, I think the comments for me is at the higher level in terms of the comments that Ms. Howe made at the beginning is she's done a wonderful job in terms of explaining this, but making the connections between Steve Whidden's report as well as your report, all the money that's invested up front makes a very clear tandem connection to Steve's report regarding the monies that we put in, the need for the responsibility, the judicious approach towards making certain the buildings are kept up, the preventive maintenance piece of it. Because I've worked in a number of organizations where those facilities are not kept up as quickly and they fall apart at a quicker level. So I'm very pleased how we've worked hard to have these two reports together, recognize the amount of money that goes up front in terms of the capital improvement part, but then what are we doing to keep those up in terms of sustainable pieces and then addressing the growth. So very good job to you as well as to Steve in terms of marrying those two programs together in a nice outline of this. I'm concerned about the percentage decrease, as we all know, and everybody should be, and as they make that advocacy level for that piece as well. But the driver in all of this, in terms of other organizations within the county, is that we have tangible, hard evidence in the fact that we have young people who are showing up in our schools that define the growth, the need for expansion, the need for what we have to do, and those are defined as FTEs, full-time equivalents, which is a student, a seat that needs to be taken. We just can't, when students arrive, we have to be able to account for them and have a seat for them, and we monitor this information clearly, starting with our birth rate.
Yes.
From that very planful part. So a lot of planning and data goes into this, as well as back to Steve's report as well. Lots of science goes into the analysis of all of this to get us where we are. So good job.
And we talked to the Planning Commission. We had just recently presented that to you with the master plan, so we didn't want to reiterate that with you again and slightly bore you. But we shared all that. We shared our metrics the same that we had just shared recently with you on the master plan about all the metrics that go into the birth rate and all of that. And you talk about the investment. In the last 9 years, it's roughly been $200 million between state and local that have been invested in school construction in the county. And that does translate to what Mr. Whidden has to do in terms of maintaining a very expensive infrastructure. So the money has definitely been invested in St. Mary's County as being well maintained.
Very good job.
Yep. Thank you very, very much. Is there a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the fiscal year 2016, fiscal year 2021 State Capital Improvements Program for submission to the Board of County Commissioners for St. Mary's County and the Public School Construction Program.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Everyone in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, we have an information item. 2015 August financial report.
No,
Oh,
No.
summer school programs.
Yes.
Where's that? I missed that.
First information item?
Yeah, it's not on there. It's on the computer.
It's on mine.
It's on there.
I guess I
Summer
didn't get,
school.
I missed the update. You did too.
Yeah?
All right, first information item, summer school programs, Miss Melissa Charbonnet. How are you today?
I am just fine,
Excellent.
and I'm glad to have this opportunity to share with you. We've been in school about 3 weeks, and I'd like to take, and now that we've gotten everything up and running and we're smooth and things are looking good, I'd like to take a moment to reflect and look at some of the hard work that we did this summer. On my opening slide here, these are the programs that were involved, but not on here is all of the support that, in important partners that we had. And we had nursing services, we had transportation, we had food services, we had academic enrichment and intervention services. We had special education services that included occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech language therapy, intensive behavioral therapy. We had transition services for on-the-job training, resume writing, and writing skills, and pre-employment skills. So there's lots and lots of folks that were involved in what we were doing, and I just want to take a chance to share with you today. Well, it's not moving. What am I doing wrong? Huh?
Okay, you're right.
Thank you, Mr. Ridden. In our Title I program, this was a collaboration between the Century 21 grant. Included in this program were, I want to say, about 100 kids that came every day. It also included special education students, so it was a truly integrated opportunity for our kids. We gave them lunch, we transported them, and in the afternoon, they participated in some really fun activities with, through the Century 21. We had 13 highly qualified teachers, 13 highly qualified paraprofessionals, a summer school administrator, a nurse, a secretary, and an enrichment coordinator. Students received instruction in reading and literacy, mathematics, lunch and recess, and then did their camp activities. The enrichment program provided activities that were aligned this summer with kind of an animal theme. They worked on team building activities. They also coordinated with 4-H, and Dr. Asper, we have baby chickens. A big hit always is the reptile guy cage.
Yeah.
And you can see this little guy up here with that snake wrapper on him. Okay. Okay. Our Head Start program was located at Green Holly. Transportation also was provided. We tried to run this program this summer, all of the programs during the same time period. As we have involved more and more partners, specifically transportation and food services, we're able to reach a wider audience, and we can add some services that we haven't been able to provide when we did these kind of silo programs. We had about between 40 and 60 kids every day. They were served family style, just like we do during during the school year, and lots of great things happening then. In this program, we had 6 teachers, 6 paraeducators, 3 family service providers, a nurse, a coordinator. We had 2 college volunteers. We're always looking to grow our teachers, and some high school kids that volunteered as well. This essentially creates almost a year-round program for our 3- and 4-year-olds. We matched up with the support of Mr. Mike. We were able to, Mr. Jones, we were able to feed a lot of kids. We purposely put camps at the sites where the lunches were occurring. We partnered with the Judy Center, and then I had some special ed programs there as well. So we were able, you can see, we served over 2,000 meals to children, about 270 meals to adults. This is really important. We know, we're worried when we let our kiddos go in the summer. We know that sometimes there isn't that opportunity for those balanced meals. This program, again, was located at Carver and Lexington Park. This was also a partnership with Patuxent River. They provided some of the STEM activities that the kids were involved in. And we advertise this heavily through the MetroCast channel and various websites. These are all of the partners you can see that help participate. Lots of activities. It was kind of a challenge this year because we had a whole bunch of stuff going on at Lexington Park. So kind of juggling the sites and then working with facilities, who was wonderful about, you know, trying to get all of their summer work done, as we've got all these kids in the building and all these activities going on, and they are always wonderful, both at, in my experience, where I'm more actively involved at Green Holly and Lexington Park, where we're running right up to the line, and camp leaves and those guys come in like a tornado to get that building ready for the school year. This year at New Horizons, this is our partnership for our more involved children. And this year we were at Lexington Park. This is our big partnership between Parks and Rec and the school system. Lots of multiple funding sources to make these things happen. This year we had 2 directors. We had an assistant director because we had so many kids, a counselor, a nurse. We actually, the school system funded 1 nurse, Parks and Rec funded 1 nurse, so we had 2 folks on site. We had highly qualified teachers and professionals, and we were able to include in that extended school year services. So we had lots and lots of things, multiple layers going on at the New Horizons camp. The services included nursing care, transportation. We took the kids out at least once a week. Lunch and Learn was served in that program. We had, as I mentioned before, the extended school year services. There were enrichment activities. And one of the things, because it's a Parks and Rec camp, we have been able over the last couple years to find some additional funding that provides scholarship money to ensure that we can get all the kids going. Camp Inspire is our camp for students that are on the autism spectrum. We had 38 students this year. We, again, located that at Lexington Park. We staffed it with the similar staffing as we had at New Horizon, but we've been able to add 2 board-certified analysts, BCBAs, who were there on site to provide both direct service and consultative service. We also can do some kind of embedded staff development that's going on. This year we had 15 peer assistants, and I believe, I'd have to check with Rocco, but I believe 13 of those were return assistants. And many of those, we had 4 that were middle school kids that had been elementary peer buddies. So we have a whole cohort of kids now that will have gone through and are saying, I want to be a special ed teacher. Yes. We also had some scholarship money available this year through the District 2 Kids Community Fund. Camp Inspire included several activities. There were life enrichment community outings. We had the structured activities. We had social skills instruction, which was a huge part. Social skills was embedded throughout the entire camp activity. We were able to piggyback on to some transportation, which is always kind of iffy from year to year, but we were able to do it this year. Again, we were able to feed the kids, and we included ESY services. We added a new component to Camp Inspire this year. We had some older students who had really aged out of the program, but before Mrs. Pierce left, she created a on-the-job transition module. And so included, she and Rocco had worked together, and what we were able to do is provide some hands-on work experience. The kids worked on a resume. They did some interviewing skills. And then Mr. Atlas at Firehouse Subway, who is the son-in-law of Ms. Fowler and the husband of one of our great speech therapists, Andrea, actually invited the kids to come in, and they were part of his team. And they had a whole variety of jobs, and then the kids rotated, so everybody got a different work experience throughout the summer. So it was a big hit all around. The kids loved it. Mr. Atlas said it was fabulous. His patrons loved it. It was great. So we also had what we call an ESY classroom. This is for our very most profoundly involved students. They were, we were able to staff that with one highly qualified teacher. We had a full-time deaf interpreter. We had 3 ABAs and a BCBA, and you can see that's pretty much one-to-one staffing. If you had been down there, you would have seen how we absolutely needed that. Kids had a wonderful experience. And then included and woven throughout the day were also the related service provisions for the occupational therapy, physical, and speech therapy. These are kids that really, you can see this camp went a little bit longer. These are children that it's real important that we don't have, that we minimize as much as possible their break for school. Our second year, we had a preschool, what we call a preschool fun camp. We had a total of 30 children in this camp. They were little people who need some language intervention. And we staffed that with a teacher, 3 highly qualified paraeducators, and then it was overseen by Ms. Kilcoyne, speech language pathologist, in wearing her hat there. And we're able to provide some really good experiences for the children as well as some parent training for the families. So we had no break for these little people for language. For the kids who needed a little bit more intensive services, we called it our LEAP speech group. These were also little people. We had 2 groups. There were 14 kids altogether. And we staffed that with a speech pathologist and a paraeducator. And that was set up like a play group, a play language group. And so we were able to maintain some, very often with little folks, we get breakthroughs about March and April, and then school's over. And so we wanted to keep that intervention going to make sure that those kids kept that momentum going. And then, of course, infants and toddlers. And this was located at both in homes. We had school-based play groups at Banneker and at Green Holly. Our team continued, our 8 qualified teachers, our speech pathologists, our OTs and PTs, continue to work with these families. I want to just put a data plug in. Kim has left. When she talks about the birth rate and the live birth rates for kids that live in St. Mary's County, I've been here 8 years. For 7 years, we pretty much maintained about 150 kids in infants and toddlers. I shared with Mr. Smith yesterday, we have 265 children either receiving direct service now or in the assessment process. It's September 10th. So the impact that this has on staffing and just goes to, Kim is great because she can do those demographics, and project out. But this was a bubble. She told me things were gonna, increase. I don't think we anticipated how big the bubble was gonna be, though. But And we finished up, we had our enrichment program that served 329 kids. That was our space camp, fine arts, the foreign language program, and then the tech kids. So all in all, we served about 829 children this summer. We did it through some real creative financing with good partnerships and a lot of dedication. And I think it serves our families and our children well to look at the number of kids and for me to sit back and see how much this has grown under your tenure, sir, and under the support that we get from supporting services, because we couldn't do all of these camps without all of the help and partnership that we get from them. So, thank you.
Anybody want to make
Any questions?
any comments or reaction? Yeah.
Just-
I have a quick question, just to clarify, as a board member. Now, we have partnerships with like Parks and Rec as well, that institute programs, that they execute as well for our students as well.
Well, New Horizons and Camp Inspire
Yeah.
are two big partnerships. We also partner with them with the Judy Center.
They take field trips and they go to different locations, different sites for enrichment activities, those different programs
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
And are those places that they visit, are they checked out, you know, in terms of facilities for safety and all of those issues for compliance purposes?
Yes,
Because I know
sir.
we go to a number of like sites in the county where our students with special needs, and I just want to make sure that all of those are compliant, that we're in compliance with safety issues and things such as that. Because that issue's been raised with me from community where they'll see, you know, our buses at various locations in communities, in neighborhoods, at personal residences and things such as that, it could be. And are they in compliance? Because oftentimes our community doesn't know what's going on.
Right. We do have one volunteer that provides access to some water for us. And I have talked with Ms. Bishop to make sure that, you know, have you all checked it out? Yes, yes, yes. And that response has been, my response back to her was yes. We do have next week kind of a debrief where we all come together and look at what has gone well. Are there ways that we can enhance the program? What do we want to keep? What do we want to change? And certainly community activities are reviewed every single year as to what do we want to keep, what do we want to change. Lunch and Learn does the same thing.
Exactly.
Because Parks and Rec is involved in the Lunch and Learn part of the activities that are provided after we feed the kids.
And I appreciate that because there's a vetting process for that, there's a due diligence process for that. But I have had calls this summer asking questions about, you know, those kind of issues. And I appreciate your response.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also had questions this summer over, why are the buses on the road? There's no school. And people were really surprised when I talked about the kinds of programs that are offered during the summer, why they're offered. If you, as someone who didn't have an understanding or were looking at the numbers that you showed us in terms of the people it takes to ensure these programs run smoothly and appropriately and are staffed as they need to be, someone might say there's too many people there. But that would mean that they had not been to these camps. They haven't seen the students who are served. And people tend to think that everyone looks, sounds, and has the same abilities that they do. And it is very humbling to see the challenges that many of these students face to do things that we take for granted every day. And I'm really pleased that you have found ways of pulling together lots of different people lots of different funding sources to provide the resources to make sure that those breakthroughs. And for some people, if you heard what some of the breakthroughs were, you might just shrug your shoulders and think, big deal, what's the big deal? Very big deal. And being able to maintain that and bring that into the next school year means that life may be easier for the children, for their families, and they're getting more out of the school program. So I'm very grateful, not just to you, but to all the people who show their dedication every day. It's truly a labor of love. The smiling faces on the staff as well as the students is very heartening. So thank you for bringing this, so we have a chance to share in it, but also, more importantly, for our students. Very, very well received. Thank you.
Ms. Washington?
Thank you, Mrs. Charbonnet. People often wonder what happens in the summer. They assume schools are closed, the buildings are empty, and it would be great, as they think, to be an educator because in the summer you're off. Many of our educators are working full-time, year-round, with enrichment programs and camps for students so that they will not lose what they learned during the school year, that they can reinforce those skills that they learned. So when school opens, they are ready. They didn't lose any ground. We also have opportunities for students to be fed. And I visited George Washington Carver during the summer and the Lunch and Learn program, and there were entire families there eating lunch, and they had learning activities for the students and other programs going on. And that whole school was used for the summer. And I know the challenge it faces for the building service workers to have to try to clean every desk, every chair, every wall while there are activities going on. But they work very well with the school, and they come in as a team and make sure the buildings are ready for school. So I thank you for your leadership and all the educators and staff members who work to make those programs successful for students so they can spend quality time during the summer learning and with enrichment activities and being fed as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. You've touched over 800 kids this summer, and the numbers go up every year. You just help the community so much. You help these kids that need the extra steps. It's just a nice thing. Thank you, and thank everybody that is associated with it. It's a huge list of people, but it's doing the good work.
Thanks. It's a big team, big
Mhm.
team. There's lots of folks here that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mrs. Charbonnet, thank you very much. And please tell the staff and everybody that has worked in the program, thank you very much from the Board of Education. And I'm sure all the parents of all these children thank you also.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. This brings us to financial report, 2015 August. Mrs. McCourt.
You have before you the August financial report for your information purposes. In the month of August, we received $37.9 million in revenues against a $194.6 million budget. On the expenditure side, I'd like to point out that this does not reflect the 10-month salary and fringe benefit encumbrances. The first payroll for the 10-month employees was the first week of September. That will be reflected on your September report. Year-to-date encumbrances total $34 million, and year-to-date expenses plus encumbrances total $47.2 million as of the end of August. Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions of Mrs. McCourt? Mrs. Allen?
No.
Mrs. Ward?
No, thank you.
Mr. Matthews?
No questions. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, want to remind the board that we will reconvene into executive session after the close of this meeting. The next Board of Education meeting will be held on Tuesday, September the 23rd, 2014 at 5:30. Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is adjourned.